The NBA world thrives on two things: talent and drama. And in Los Angeles, there's no shortage of either. For years, the bright lights of Hollywood basketball have been split between the storied Lakers and their so-called little brother, the Clippers. But now, a scandal has cracked the foundation of that rivalry wide open. Reports emerge that the Los Angeles Clippers, desperate to secure Kawhi Leonard back in 2019, had engaged in backroom dealings, shady financial maneuvers, and what insiders are now calling an illegal salary cap scheme. The franchise that once promised to outshine the purple and gold had allegedly broken the very rules that govern the league. And when the news hit the NBA landscape like an earthquake, all eyes turned not to Adam Silver, not to Steve Ballmer, but to LeBron James, the king of Los Angeles basketball, the man Kawhi Leonard once refused to play alongside. Because if there's anyone who understands betrayal, manipulation, and the high stakes of legacy, it's LeBron James. And his reaction? It wasn't just a statement, it was a thunderclap. To understand why LeBron's words cut so deep, you have to go back to the summer of 2019. The Lakers had just landed Anthony Davis, pairing him with LeBron in what looked like the beginning of another dynasty. But the whispers were everywhere. LeBron wanted Kawhi too, the reigning Finals MVP, the silent assassin who had just delivered Toronto their first-ever championship. For a few weeks, the Lakers believed they were in the driver's seat. Fans envisioned a big three so powerful it might break the league. But then, the story shifted. Kawhi Leonard didn't want to play with LeBron. He didn't want to share the throne. Instead, he orchestrated a backdoor plan with the Clippers, convincing them to mortgage their future for Paul George and deliver him the spotlight away from LeBron's shadow. It wasn't just a decision, it was a statement. Kawhi was telling the basketball world, "I don't need LeBron James." And for years, that narrative hung over the city like smog. Fast forward 5 seasons. The Clippers' grand experiment, Leonard and George, turned into failure. One Western Conference Finals appearance, injuries, frustration, and no championship banners to raise in the rafters of the brand-new Intuit Dome. Meanwhile, LeBron and Anthony Davis delivered for the Lakers immediately, capturing the 2020 NBA championship in the bubble. The Lakers stayed relevant, even managed to swing a blockbuster trade that brought Luka Doncic to Los Angeles. The contrast couldn't be sharper. The Lakers were thriving, the Clippers were spiraling. And then came the scandal. The investigation revealed that in 2019, when Kawhi Leonard was weighing his free agency options, the Clippers had allegedly made off-the-books promises, extra benefits, shady sponsorship deals, under-the-table financial commitments that violated the league's strict salary cap rules. The franchise that had been hailed as the model of player empowerment suddenly looked like a cautionary tale. And at the center of it all was Kawhi, the man who turned his back on LeBron. The league erupted with opinions, but the one voice everyone was waiting for finally arrived: LeBron James. LeBron has always been strategic with his words. He knows the weight they carry. And when asked about the Clippers scandal during a post-practice media session, he didn't hold back. He leaned into the mic, his eyes narrowing. "Look, man, I've been in this league a long time. I've seen players win the right way. I've seen franchises build the right way, and then I've seen shortcuts. What you're talking about with the Clippers? That's not just a bad look. That's disrespectful to the game, to the players, to the fans." The room went silent, but he wasn't done. Everybody remembers 2019. Everybody remembers how that went down. I don't need to remind anybody, but if you're telling me that all along there were other things happening behind the scenes, that makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it? It was the King's way of saying what everyone else was afraid to. Kawhi Leonard didn't just turn down LeBron James. He might have done it with illegal help from the Clippers. LeBron's reaction wasn't just anger, it was vindication. For years, critics said Kawhi chose to be his own man rather than team up with LeBron. But now, the narrative twisted. Because if the Clippers had bent the rules to get him, then maybe Kawhi hadn't been so independent after all. Maybe he needed more than just his talent to resist LeBron's gravitational pull. And LeBron knew exactly what he was doing when he made that connection. He was reclaiming the narrative, reframing the history, drawing a line in the sand that said, "We did it clean." They didn't. The ripple effects were immediate. Sports talk shows exploded with debates. Did Kawhi Leonard's legacy just take a permanent hit? Should the Clippers be punished with draft pick forfeitures? Did this scandal rob LeBron James of what could have been the greatest trio in NBA history? On ESPN's First Take, Stephen A. Smith thundered, "If this is true, if the Clippers were cheating behind the scenes, then Kawhi Leonard didn't just choose the Clippers. He chose corruption over playing with LeBron James, and that's gonna follow him forever." Colin Cowherd on The Herd added fuel. LeBron has been the model of professional dominance. Say what you want about the decision or super teams. He never needed anyone breaking rules for him. The Clippers? They tried to cheat the system and still failed. What made LeBron's reaction resonate wasn't just his words. It was the weight of history. Here was a man in year 22 of his career, still defying age, still competing for championships, looking across the city at a rival who was supposed to dethrone him, but never did. And now the world learns that the rival might have had help the whole time. LeBron didn't need to scream. He didn't need to attack Kawhi personally. He just needed to let the facts sink in. Because the truth was obvious. Kawhi Leonard turned down a dynasty with LeBron James, and even with questionable help from the Clippers, he still couldn't deliver. The scandal raised deeper questions about legacy. What does this do to Kawhi Leonard's place in history? What does it say about the Clippers, a franchise that sold its future for a pair of stars but now faces disgrace? And most importantly, what does it do for LeBron's enduring narrative? For LeBron, it was another chapter in a career defined by adversity, by people doubting him, by rivals trying to eclipse him. Yet time after time, the king found himself still standing, while others crumbled around him. And this time, the collapse wasn't on the court. It was in the court of credibility. The scandal is far from over. The NBA is still investigating. Penalties could range from fines to draft pick losses to suspensions. But one thing is already clear. LeBron James has seized the moment. When asked if he thought Kawhi's decision in 2019 was tainted by the Clippers' alleged actions, LeBron gave a half smile and simply said, "History has a funny way of telling the truth. Sometimes it takes a while, but it always comes out." And with that, he walked away, leaving the room buzzing, the cameras flashing, and the city of Los Angeles split more than ever. Back in 2019, Kawhi Leonard had a choice: join LeBron James and build a dynasty, or go his own way with the Clippers. He chose the latter, and for a while, it looked bold, even admirable. But now, the decision looks tainted. The Clippers look compromised. And LeBron James, at 40 years old, looks like the one thing the Clippers never could manufacture: legitimate. The irony is rich. The man Kawhi didn't want to play with now stands as the symbol of playing the game the right way. And Kawhi, the man who once carried himself with quiet dignity, finds his name wrapped up in controversy. In Los Angeles, the drama never ends. But one truth has become undeniable. LeBron James didn't just win on the court. He won the battle of legacies.
What's interesting to me is that when you put money into a startup or into any company, you are told, here is the sources of funds, here's the uses of funds. And you put in $2 million into a company, hey, what are you using it for? Are you paying down debt? Are you using it for payroll? Are you using it for research and development? Are you going to try to cure cancer? What do we got here? It would seem to me that Dennis Wong would not be shocked to hear that his money was being used to pay Kawhi. But it would be interesting to find out, in my head, is did he think that he was putting in money to save the earth? That this was $2 million that was required to keep it going?
We ended up doing 2 rounds of layoffs. The first round was in the first week of December, where a bunch of very high-level executives got laid off. The president, the general counsel, some C-suite.
Dennis co-owns the only limited partner of the team, the Clippers, and also through his own daughter, who was witnessing the sinking of this ship firsthand, who my sources all knew as a colleague. He had several very informed ways to know quite a bit about what company he was sinking $2 million into right as Kawhi Leonard needed to be paid $1.75.
It's almost like the opposite of insider trading, right? You had the scoop to not put money in.
Yes.
Unless you weren't investing in this to make money. You were investing in this for a different reason.
The second round of layoffs, which was in the second week of December, was almost 20% of the entire staff. So about 100 people were laid off. I mean, to say it was bleak is almost an understatement.
David Sampson, former president of the Marlins, please tell us when exactly Aspiration finally does wire their months late second payment to Kawhi Leonard.
December 15th of 2022, $1.75 million.
So this payment was made December 15th, 2022. Mm-hmm. When was the 20% of the staff laid off?
The same day.
Oh. Is it rational, is the question.
Right.
For Dennis J. Wong.
Podcast court. Here we go.
To put in, coincidentally, just enough to get the most important employee of the Los Angeles Clippers paid at the scheduled date with just 9 days to go.
Now the Clippers have to explain this one too. They have to explain this investment because the 50, you tied it to 48, 28 plus 20.
And that was months between.
Mm-hmm. I could argue how you did that, but it has to be explained. This one for certain has to be explained. And I don't know how he will rationalize it, but he will have to when he meets with Wachtell.